It is February 16th, 2023, and the words we've all been waiting for are finally here. Baseball is back. Many prominent baseball prediction systems have the Yankees ranked as the number one team in Major League Baseball, but a lot of Yankees fans aren't so sure. Tonight, I am joined by Yankees content creator and Brian Cashman body double Jason Surge of 161 River Avenue to wrap up the Yankees offseason and preview the rest of the American League. Who's up and coming? Who's taken a step back? And can anyone stop the Astros? Thanks for tuning in. It's baseball season, and this is NYY Recaps.
Welcome.
Just when they thought I was out, they pull me back in.
What up?
That's
How's
good.
it going, everybody? Welcome back to another live February edition of NYY Recaps. Players are trickling back into camp, and we have got a lot to talk about. Montas is hurt. Aaron Judge is taking reps at first base. But first, I must introduce my guest for tonight. Without further delay, the man, the myth, the creator, Jason Surge from 161 River Avenue. What up, Jason?
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure being on here. You hear that? That's me right there.
So let's take 10 minutes and kick it off with some Yankees talk. I know we're going to preview the American League, and we're going to talk about who got better, who got worse, and all that stuff. But I want to first touch on the Frankie Montas situation. Is this now finally Brian Cashman's worst trade of all time?
I would say so because of the amount they gave up for him and guys that could have been used in more important trades that they could potentially be executing right now or, pitching right now. So we don't have any of them, unfortunately. And we're at we have a lot of big arms, but they're in the lower parts of the system. We don't really have any big arms in AA or AAA. We gave up all of them for Frankie Montas. Now, the trade could be less bad if Lou Trevino continues to improve, but Frankie Montas being hurt, I guess it was kind of inevitable, but it still stinks. So they have to figure out what to do to replace him. And I know losing the number 5 is not necessarily the same as losing number 1, but it's still. The Yankees have always had injury issues in the starting rotation, so they've got to do something.
Yeah, I don't look at it necessarily as just losing the number 5. I look at it as losing the number 5 plus the kids that you traded away because the Yankees got, frankly, nothing for Frankie Montas. So we lost Ken Waldichuk, J.P. Sears, two guys who I'm convinced can pitch pretty well at the big league level, left-handed pitchers that I think would do well in Yankee Stadium. And we got practically nothing back for it. So that one hurts. Let's talk about Aaron Judge taking grounders at first base, taking footwork drills around the bag. Do you think he's just having fun first day of spring training, or do you think it's like the beginning of a long-term strategy where they said when they signed him, hey, look, we'll give you 9 years, but you better bring a first baseman's mitt to camp and start learning because in a few years we're going to need a big guy over there.
I think a little bit of that, but I think they needed to give IKF a gigantic target to throw the ball to first base. To get off to a good start, right? Because he's been not so good at shortstop, and he was one of the guys that came in early, and who better to throw there than one of the Twin Towers, Aaron Judge. So that's the way I look at it.
You know what? It's weird. I've seen a lot of people call them the Twin Towers, and I saw like some T-shirts. But it still just doesn't sit right with me to call him and Stanton the Twin Towers. I just can't get next to it for some reason.
Yeah, they were at the New York Marathon this past year because Judge's wife ran it. And they were standing. Mm-hmm. She was sandwiched in between them. She was like at their waist. Okay, so they looked huge. So that's where I started using the Twin Towers. But to me, it's David Robertson and Tim Duncan from San Antonio Spurs. Those are the real Twin Towers to me. But I think they're as close as they get. They're gigantic. Gigantic.
So Aiden wants to know if we're going to talk about Rodon. It was interesting seeing him with the mustache. I always like a guy who's rocking the mustache to the ballpark. I think he's going to really feed off of off of Garrett Cole, and Garrett Cole's really going to feed off of him. So I'm excited about Rodon. Give me your thoughts on Carlos.
So this is the first time that I can think of a righty-lefty combo that's been this dominant since like Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling. If you think about it, right? And I don't remember any time the Yankees had one. And it's kind of tough to compare because those are top-level guys, but I can't think of a righty-lefty combination. And you make a good point too, because when he was with Houston, him and Verlander made each other better.
True,
and I think the
very
same
true.
thing happened here. Rodon and Cole are going to make each other better. They're going to feed off each other, and they're going to be a tough 1-2 to have to face in an extended series or in the playoffs. That's going to stink facing both those guys in a row.
So do you think the Yankees overall are a better team than they were at the end of last season? I think the pitching is definitely better, getting Mike King back, getting Carlos Rodon, but I don't think the offense is really going to be that much better.
I would agree 100%. They still have to address left field, and I'm sorry, but they have to get somebody who's better than Oswaldo Cabrera and Aaron Hicks. I like Oswaldo Cabrera, but to me, he's like a Ben Zobrist type. He can play the infield well, he can play the outfield well. So I'd rather give him 120 games kind of around a field than try to throw 600 bats at him in left field. But if that happens, it happens. But I'm still holding out hope for a Brian Reynolds move. So, he did make it clear yesterday that he wanted out. So, to me, I think they shot themselves in the foot. I said this yesterday. They asked for a Babe Ruth package return, but they're valuing him like he's Steve Balboni. You can't do that. And then and nobody's biting on their request, right? The Dodgers, the Mariners, nobody's biting on that ask. So Cashman's, I think he's just waiting in the weeds. And if it happens, then I think they'll be closer to the Astros. But at this point, I don't think they're better offensively.
So Aiden says, Ronald Acuna Jr., there were some rumors about him being unhappy, but it turns out that he actually tweeted at the kid who made those rumors, whatever, lying in Texas, who ended up deleting their account in a classic self-own. Could have just said nothing. I forget who it was that said, better to remain silent and appear clueless than open your mouth and remove all doubt. Yeah. So Pacoda and I think a couple other systems have predicted the Yankees at about 99 wins this year. Last year they won 99 games. Obviously they got off to that unbelievable start last year, but they were really about a 500 team in the second half. Really no match for the Astros in the ALCS. What do you buy those predictions of them being the best team in the American League? I still think the Astros, just looking at them, despite losing Verlander, are still a pretty damn good team.
Yeah, I think they're going to be the second best team in the American League. Probably 97, 98 wins. I don't know if you saw the Zips projections. They came out yesterday. They had them at 89 wins. I think that's pretty low. Yeah, and I'm like, dude. So I think they're closer to 97, 98 wins. I think they're still good enough to win the AL East. But the Astros still, to me, are the better tier. And they're doing it right there. I'm going to talk about them in a little bit. They're still better, even without Verlander.
So as we look at the possible moves that could happen before opening day as the Yankees try and get over that hump, who would you think is the most likely player to get traded? Obviously, there's IKF, there's Gleyber Torres, Donaldson, Hicks. Who do you think is the guy most likely to be moved?
I think if they decide they want a pitcher, right, then Gleyber Torres is going to be the guy to move because he's the only guy that can bring an impact player in return. IKF can't do that. IKF should probably be a prospect and some salary, right? Otherwise, I can't see them. I don't see them moving Torres for an outfielder. I see them, unloading some other folks. But I wouldn't be surprised if neither one of them is moved. To be honest with you, I still think Hicks is movable, but he's obviously not going to bring back as much value as Torres was. Torres is the most valuable trade piece right now, but he's also a top 5 hitter on the team, so they have to keep that in mind and use that in the trade talks, right? This guy he's had a resurgent year, so we're going to want a fair return for this guy, and we want an impact player, whether it's wherever, from the White Sox or from another team. They want to get a decent return or a good return for this guy. That's what I think. What about you?
So, I agree with you that Gleyber Torres is probably the most likely player to get traded, but I see a lot of people hating on Gleyber Torres, and, I just want to reiterate what you just said. He's a pretty good player. I mean, he has a kind of an awkward approach in certain situations. You're down 4 or 5 runs and he's swinging from the heels, definitely trying to hit the home run rather than trying to, get on base. I don't think that his baseball IQ is necessarily all that high, but he's got a lot of raw talent. He's got a little bit of clutch gene. He's hit well in the playoffs before. He had a number of walk-off hits last year. He's got power to right field, which bodes well in Yankee Stadium. I don't know how many first-row home runs he's hit over the last few years, but I guarantee he's hit several of them. If I do move Gleyber Torres, I want something good in return. I want a top pitching prospect, like a guy who's ready to step into the major leagues right now. Maybe if somebody is, looking for another bat, then you could maybe go with, Peraza and Volpe, a couple of kids up the middle, which I think could be great. It obviously, it brings with it growing pains, sure, but it's still fun. Growing pains aren't always that bad because, some guys, once you get a little bit of a success, like Oswaldo Cabrera last year, nobody remembers the million strikeouts, but they remember the grand slam. They remember the steal and the home run. Once you have a little bit of success, you build that momentum and then you just become more comfortable. Yeah. So I would love to see these guys, get started developing in the major leagues right away. But if you're going to deal Gleyber, like I said, got to get a decent pitcher back.
The only way I'm moving him for an impact player. I mean, I'm not going to just move him for somebody that we might use 3 years from now. Like if the Yankees are a win now team, so somebody who's going to help them take advantage of the prime years of the guys that are here now, the big contract guys. So I think that's an important factor to consider at the very least, which is why I also am a proponent of Brian Reynolds, because he, to me, is a guy that can help them take advantage of the prime years of the Coles, of the Stantons, of the Judges, and these guys. So and make with that win now move. So I have the same philosophy with Gleyber Torres because he is good enough to get an impact player, or maybe 2.
So comment from Yoelvis. He says, why more pitching? Pitching is not our problem. I would make the case that you can never have enough pitching. I know every general manager is always trying to add pitching because, as they were saying on the Michael Kay show yesterday, it's the most fragile thing and the most important thing in baseball. Pitchers are always breaking down. How many times have we seen the Yankees have to dip to journeyman pitchers along the way? You want to get as many stud arms as you can. Because good, they say good pitching always beats good hitting, and the Astros got a pretty good lineup. The Mariners got some damage. The Blue Jays got some guys who can do damage. You're gonna need some arms to shut those guys down. What are your thoughts on addressing pitching before you address the offense?
I would still bring in another pitcher. I mean, it's only every now and then we'll get an Aaron Small or Sean Chacon or somebody like that, or John Lieber to do something good, right? But I don't know who else is out there right now. I mean, we can't wait for just Luis Hill. Hopefully he comes back. He's productive, but they got to ease him in because he's coming back from Tommy John. I like Matt Crook. He's the only prospect that they have in the farm that's thrown more than 100 innings that hasn't been traded. So that, to me, he's probably a guy that could be considered. He might be able to beat out a Herman or a Schmidt for the number 5 spot. So he's a guy I would give a shot to. Plus, he's on the lefty side. So, more lefties there. So, but aside from that, I think you're right. You're absolutely right. You never have enough pitching, man, or too much pitching.
Not so family fun vision says, do you think Donaldson can bounce back? What are your thoughts on JD?
This is interesting too because he has a $16 million option for 24, right? But he has $6 million buyout. So this year's just a wash without no matter what. But to me, if I'm him, I'm saying, okay, this should motivate me to either try to play better, but I don't know if his skill sets, which is decline, is going to allow him to do that, or increase his value by being less of a jabroni, right? So, and that's another thing too, and to be a better clubhouse guy, because at the end of the day, how many times has he made himself look silly last year? Quite a few times. Yeah. And honestly, if I want to watch pimp walking, I'm going to go watch Pootie Tang. I don't need Josh Johnson. So for him, if it were me, it would motivate me. I mean, I can either make an extra 10,000, or 10 million, or I can lose 10 million. So to me, I hope it registers in his head. So if he has a resurgent year and he has a little bit better production offensively, okay. He's still, elite defensively, so I'll give him that. But there's a lot to be decided on the offensive side. He's too inconsistent.
Yeah, what I took from him last year is a guy who has aged out of being able to play reflexively. So, you saw him take a lot of pitches right down the middle, and that to me indicates that he's guessing, because why would you take that pitch if you weren't looking for something else? And then you see him hacking at pitches that are in the dirt. And that tells me, he's just become a guess hitter. He may have always been a guess hitter, and last year was just an extraordinarily unlucky season. But my guess is that he used to be more reactionary, or used to be able to react a little better. And now that he's in his upper 30s, as we've both been through, your reaction time definitely takes a hit.
Yeah, most definitely. And again, like you said, this is not MVP Josh Donaldson anymore. He's got a declining skill set, and that has to be considered as well. And if I'm them, I would be alternating a guy like Andres Chaparro or DJ at third base. Let a prospect or DJ kind of alternate with him, and if rather than just letting him putting him out there every day, which is generally probably going to be a net negative for the team offensively. Get some more consistency in there, which is why I think DJ would be a great option. Or if they want to go young, go Chaparro. He's an attractive prospect as well, who could also back up Rizzo at first base. So at the end of the day, I think it would be wise for them to give the young kids or DJ more of a shot at third base.
Yeah. So I don't know if I ever answered your question of whether or not I buy or sell the Yankees at 99 plus wins and best team in baseball. I think they're about a 95 to 97 win team realistically, with, if you factor in injuries, they might get to 99. I also think that they will likely change their team before they get to the playoffs. The trade deadline this year, if they're out in front like they were last year, I think they're going to go out and try and get another bat for sure. I do want to go ahead and get to our American League preview, since that is the main topic tonight. So for those of you who don't follow Jason's channel, it's not just the Yankees, but he covers a lot of other team breaking news and offseason stuff. So a lot more closely than I follow the rest of the league. I'm pretty much addicted to the Yankees, and I spend the rest of my time watching 90s boxing. But let's take a look at some of these other teams here. All right, let's start with the Baltimore Orioles. Tell me, what you think of the Orioles. To me, they were an upstart team last year that has a lot of prospects, on the way.
Yeah, developing prospects. And they didn't have a very voluminous offseason. They brought in Adam Frazier, Kyle Gibson, Jake Cave, a couple of guys. But I think they're going to be relying on continued development from some of their young players. Cedric Mullins and some of these other guys, Adley Rushman, and the guys that are kind of about to hit the major league. So I think they're going to be relying on that a little bit. And again, I think we're pleasantly surprising last year. If any team is probably going to take a step backwards in terms of wins in the American League East, I think it's probably going to be the Baltimore Orioles, but not by much. Because the way that the AL looks, the AL East could have 5 teams at 500 or above, right? They could if they continue. Because I don't see the Red Sox having 2 last place years in a row. We'll get to them as well. But if any team can decline a little bit, I think it's going to be Baltimore. But I think they're going to be really, really good 2-3 years from now. I think they'll be a contender for the postseason, maybe even division.
How much of a chance did you get to watch Adley Rushman last year?
Yeah, quite a bit. I was really impressed with his skill set, just the way he carries himself. He kind of reminded me of Joe Mauer when he first came up, and some of these other guys when they first came up. He's an exciting player. He really is an exciting player. I like him.
All right, let's talk about the Toronto Blue Jays here. So they've been a real pain in the butt the last couple of years. Vladimir Guerrero has spent a lot of time doing that against the Yankees. A lot of second deckers. He had that 3-homer game. Seems like Dante Bichette Jr. Bo Bichette. Sorry, Dante Bichette was the Yankees prospect. Bo Bichette walks off the Yankees at least 2 times a year. So let me get your thoughts on how the Blue Jays look this year. What have they done to improve, and what are your thoughts on Toronto?
Well, they moved in the fences, so that's going to help their offense, their power. They brought him in. So they also traded for Dalton Varsho, which is going to add a dimension to their power offensively. So you have him in there now with Springer, and you got Vlad Jr., you got Bo, and these other guys. And who else did they bring in? They added Chad Green to the bullpen. Don Mattingly is the bench coach there now. They also added Kevin Kiermaier, who brings an offensive and defensive versatility in the outfield. They added Chris Bassett to the rotation, Brandon Belt to the infield. So they got a lot of veteran players that they brought in, which I think is going to help some of these young guys. And they're the team that I fear the most in the American League East, the Toronto Blue Jays. If anybody could win over the Yankees, it's them. So, and I think the Varsho trade is going to be more impactful than I initially thought it was going to be.
Yeah, the Blue Jays scare me a little bit. Alek Manoah, I mean, have you seen him? The man has put on a few LBs but and Gaussman is awesome. Like, he's got that great split finger. So they got pitching, they got power. They, are athletic. They're young. They're hungry. They remind me a lot of those Indian teams from the 90s with, like Tomey and Bell and who else did they have? Lofton. Yeah, just a lot of different ways they can beat you. A lot of really exciting, energetic players. Man, that team was deadly.
Oh, God. They had Richie Sexton. They had some of these other guys that were just underrated, underappreciated. That team was good. Really good.
Yeah, they were the team that took a 2-1 series lead on the Yankees in '98. They were the only sort of speed bump after the first week of the season that whole year.
When Bartolo Colon and Jarrett Wright were really good, they had them both.
Yeah,
they dominated the Yankees. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the Boston Red Sox. The last place Boston Red Sox, we should mention.
They've done a lot this offseason. They've quietly gotten better, kind of like the Angels. They added 5 relievers. Okay, They added, I think they really formatted, and I'm going to run over the list. They Kenley Jansen, they added. Chris Martin for the bullpen, Joely Rodriguez. They also added Corey Kluber back to the starting rotation. They added Richard Blyer from the Marlins also to the bullpen. They also
Yankee.
And Masataka Yoshida for the outfield, who's probably going to be the leadoff hitter. They extended Devers, Justin Turner for third base or whatever position he's going to play for DH maybe, Adam Duvall and Adalberto Mondesi for shortstop. They got him from the Royals. They made a lot of moves, and I think they're going to be much better than they were last year. So, and I can't remember seeing the Red Sox be in last place 2 years in a row. I just can't remember that happened. So, and this is an aggressive team.
I think the Red Sox made a lot of smart baseball moves, right? They just, get better in a lot of different areas in just a little bit, right? I still don't think they have the starting pitching. I mean, we're looking at Chris Sale. When I look at Chris Sale, I see a guy who's kind of on the downward spiral physically. He started to have the injury after injury after injury. Some guys come back from that, but, guys like Corey Kluber, we've seen some guys kind of bounce back but never quite get to that top level again. What are your thoughts on Sale?
I mean, I think he's going to come back motivated. I mean, I think he'll be better than he was, but I don't think he's going to be ace level. But Sale Kluber doesn't scare me as much as Cole Rodon. So, and I still think he'll be good. He's always good against the Yankees, with the exception of occasional game. But I think he'll probably win like 12 or 13 games, probably 150 Ks. Like, he'll be good enough to contribute, but I don't think he's going to be an ace anymore.
Yeah.
So
Devers might be getting ready to have that monster 50-plus home run year. I think he's going to have one of those years sometime soon. He's too good.
He kills the Yankees. He drives me nuts.
Yeah.
He kills the Yankees every time, man. It's like, what the freak? But,
all right, let's talk about the Rays. The Rays are always a pain. They seem to shift the Yankees really well, but the elimination of the shift will kind of, I think, take away one of their weapons, I think. I think they shift the Yankees better than any team in baseball. They got some young, exciting players. I thought Wander Franco was going to be better by now. And he seems okay. I think he's had some injury troubles, but he hasn't really jumped off the page statistically. Randy Arozarena has shown some good stuff in the playoffs. But again, I just don't know if they have enough to get back on top in the East.
Yeah, and I mean, who do they add this year? They added Kevin Kelly to the bullpen and Zach Eflin to the starting rotation this offseason. That's all they've done this offseason. So it looks like they're relying on a lot of their young players for bounce-back years. And, with the occasional, they'll make some kind of non-flashy deadline move that becomes really impactful, like they do every year. So, but I think they're going to be in line for probably a third place this year, maybe even fourth place. I could see the Red Sox overtaking them as well. So I don't think they've done enough that much better. But I'm not going to sleep on them either. They could win the division for all we know.
Yeah.
They're great at player development and everything else. So.
They come from out of nowhere, and they seem to, win when people aren't expecting them to, and they win in a lot of creative ways that we don't really see coming all the time. I know that they've had one of the most versatile rosters where they got guys who can play all over the place, and they take advantage of that turf by having a lot of guys who slap the ball. and use their speed, But Kevin Kiermaier, I think he's gone. He was one of those guys. Great defensive player. They lost him. So, hey, look, they're just a wild card to me. They could come from out of nowhere and be great, or they could finish in last place, like you said. All right, let's talk about the Minnesota Twins. So a couple years ago, they hit, 300 home runs? Was that 2019? That was pretty much their high watermark since then. They have gone downhill a little bit. I don't know if they have the pitching, but they've got some guys like Byron Buxton who are exciting to watch. But let me get your thoughts on – they added Joey Gallo. Let me get your thoughts on the Twins.
Yeah, and they brought back Correa. They got Pablo Lopez. They traded what's the guy's name?
Arise.
Arise. Yeah, they traded him for Pablo Lopez. So who else do they have? I don't even know. They got Dylan Bundy and then Sonny Gray. So the rotation is a scheme. They also have Christian Vasquez. So if any catcher could make the pitchers better, I think it's him. So I think that was one of the smarter moves that they made this offseason. They took him away from Boston. And who else did they get? Arias. Yeah, Paddock is in the rotation. They also traded for Michael Taylor for the outfielder, center fielder from the Royals. They brought in some decent moves. Their big one was Correa and I think Pablo Lopez. But I don't think they're going to be any scarier than they were last year. I still think the Guardians have the edge in the Central. But they can make a run too. They don't scare me.
They don't scare me in the postseason, especially. The Yankees have owned the Twins in the playoffs forever. It's almost like a warm-up round.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's go to the Rangers. Did you catch the news on DeGrom missing the beginning of camp? Who would have seen that one coming, huh? How about everyone? Everyone saw that coming. Give me thoughts on Texas.
Well, they brought him in. They brought in, who else did they bring in? A couple other starters, right? They brought in, my gosh, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank on him for some reason. They brought the big-time starter that they brought in from DeGrom. It'll come to me. But they added a lot of people with their offseason, throughout the offense. So, but they still don't scare me. I don't think they're going to be able to stay healthy. And that's to me, that's the big one, right? And I'm not exactly sure they're not going to go past the Houston Astros in the West. So let's just be about that now. Again, and I'm having a hard time remembering the last guy that they brought in because they're not scaring me. Because they have all those. They've got Seager and they've got Simeon and some of these other guys.
Nate Eovaldi.
Nate Eovaldi, that's him. And John Gray. Okay, but I think if Jacob deGrom throws 20 games, I'd be surprised. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. If he throws 20 games, $37 million a year for the next 5 years. So I'm glad the Yankees didn't do it, and I'm really glad they didn't do it. But he'll probably be really good for maybe 8 or 10 games, and then he's gonna get hurt, and then every month or so, every 6 weeks. So I'm not really. They don't frighten me. They frighten me less than the Twins do. Texas Rangers.
Yeah, DeGrom, he's one of those guys. He'll show up once every 2 weeks and throw 7 shutout innings with 15 strikeouts, but that doesn't really help you over the course of a full season, Yeah.
He can have
all right,
an ERA, but still be 2-1.
So let's talk about the Seattle Mariners. So they were another team that was kind of an upstart over the last couple of years. Obviously, Julio Rodriguez is fun to watch. They got Castillo, who scares me in a playoff series because he absolutely owns the Yankees. They're a fun team to watch, and I wish they weren't on the West Coast so I could watch them more. But give me your thoughts on the Mariners, whether or not they have what it takes to compete with the Astros in the division.
I think they get incrementally better. We got Robbie Ray there. They also added Teoscar Hernandez for the Blue Jays. Decent piece. They added Cooper Hamill, Trevor Gott, a couple of, Colton Wong they added for the infield, A.J. Pollock for the outfield, and Tommy LaStella, kind of utility guy. So they added some solid veterans. I think they won a couple more games than they did last year, but I thought they were going to bring in like a big player. Like I had predicted Aaron Judge to go there in our MLB free agent prediction, and I said because that's the type of guy you want to put up alongside Julio, that dynamic duo like they have in the rotation. But I'm glad he came back to the Yankees, obviously. But they still frighten me. Luis Castillo frightens the hell out of me. Robbie Ray, not too much. He's on and off against the Yankees, but Castillo, every single time he comes out, it's just like it was like Kurt Schilling against them in the postseason. He just dominated the Yankees. So they frighten me, but again, you got to get past Houston, and that's the key there. And they don't have enough to get past Houston, unfortunately. So,
are you much of a video game guy? Do you play any of the MLB The Show stuff?
I just started playing that stuff. I'm more of the old school, like Super Mario Brothers and
Nintendo. Oh yeah, like Nintendo, all that.
Yeah.
I had Bad News Baseball on the NES. That was my favorite one of all time. And Baseball Stars. I'm sure you remember Baseball Stars.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking I might use the Mariners this year when I do my franchise, just because they got so many exciting players, and they got a beautiful ballpark.
Gorgeous. I can see Rodriguez hitting 35 home runs this year.
Yeah.
I could see, something like that.
I never like to use the Yankees in when I do my video games because, one, I get too anal about like the ratings. It's like somebody's having a bad week. I want to adjust their ratings in the game. And two, I like to kind of just pick a different team and just kind of get to know them a little bit. So I think the Mariners might be my MLB The Show pick this year. All right, last one. We're going to talk about the Astros. I probably should have mentioned the Guardians. I didn't put together a reel for them, but Guardians could be pretty good this year. They were pretty good last year. A lot of contact. What are your thoughts on the Guardians, real quick?
Yeah. There's like no flashy. I'm glad they re-signed Ramirez and extended him. There's no flashy players I can think of, but they're always there. Great contact hitting, low strikeouts. They're on base all the time. They do a lot of the little things more than the big things. And to me, that makes them a very good team. And they have a young, dynamic nucleus there too. So I just see them winning the division for the next couple of years in the Central.
Yeah,
so I really do. I can't see, unless the White Sox make a huge leap or someone else makes a huge leap, I see them winning. Again, it also depends on whether they move Bieber and Plesac, because they're coming up to, a free agency soon too, and they're gonna have to decide whether they want to extend these guys or move them. So that I think will, change their calculus as well.
I don't think they made any big flashy moves this
Nope.
winter, did they? They just kind of they got a lot of guys who are developing. Who's that?
Did they get Josh Bell?
Did they get Josh Bell?
I think so.
I think he might have gone to the Guardians. You're right.
That might be their move. That might be their move.
They needed some power, and he's got some power for sure, and he had a good year last year. All right, let's talk about, finally, the world champion Houston Astros. Obviously, they lost Verlander. They still have this guy, Altuve, who just drives me nuts and has been just a pain in the Yankees' side for the last several years. Bregman, obviously clutch, getting better every year. They really do remind me of the 90s Yankees teams, just that core of really good players. But they just lost a humongous reason that they've won, and that's Justin Verlander. Alvarez, I think, is going to be a potential 50-plus home run guy, maybe a couple of times in his career, if not more. Give me your thoughts on the Astros before we wrap this up.
They also brought in a big bat. They brought in Jose Abreu.
Yes. Big RBI machine.
Yep. On base guy, too. Low strikeouts. A good veteran presence there to complement these guys. So, and they, whatever they did else, they brought back Rafael Montero, which that was a good move for them. And they've just extended a couple of their young guys. They brought back Michael Brantley for a year, and then they just re-signed Christian Javier the other day. So they have a nucleus that's big enough to withstand the loss of a Verlander, and bringing in a guy like Abreu might offset that, giving them a little bit of a different dynamic. Yeah. But I still think they're the best team. And what's interesting, if I could point this out, the American League East, and the reason I bring this up is it reminds me of the SEC football conference, right? Because they beat each other up all year.
Yeah.
Right. And every game is like a playoff game. So by the time the playoffs come, I think sometimes the teams like the Yankees are a little bit beat up. And this is where teams like the Houston Astros, who have taken advantage of, good stretches better than the Yankees have, are just primed to really go long into the postseason. And that's where I think they have an advantage. And they have better backup players, better bench players than the Yankees do. If you can get to the point where your backup players can play well even when they're not playing full-time, which is when the Yankees had those guys, like the Shane Spencers and the Ricky Days, that's when they were really dangerous in the postseason. The Astros have that. They have that, and that's the X factor to me. And, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Just want to go back to the main screen here. Final closing thoughts on the 2023 season for the Yankees. What are your biggest question marks? Like the top, I'd say, 2 question marks that you would like to see them address.
address, obviously, are they going to improve in left field? And is DJ going to stay healthy? Because when he's healthy and when he's productive, the Yankees kind of go with it. He's a good table setter, okay? And to me, depending on who they get at left field, I think a left field option should be a leadoff hitter, which is why if it's not like a Jerkson profile, then they're going to have to clean up. They're going to have to clean up payroll for that. If it's a Brian Reynolds, and you can bat him a leadoff, I think DJ's a perfect number 2 hitter, right? He's the best contact hitter on the team. And if you have a leadoff guy top who can run, and then you have DJ behind him, it puts him in a better run manufacturing position than they would be normally when DJ. Because the way I look at it too, if DJ's on first and if somebody hits a double, DJ's going to third. Yeah. If you have a fast guy first and DJ hits a double, that guy's scoring. That's the difference between 1-0 and still no score. That to me makes it a significant difference if you're batting 3 or 4 times in a game. So that right there is a, will they get better and will it be a leadoff type guy in left field? And is DJ going to stay healthy? Those are my 2 biggest questions. I think the pitching's going to be fine.
I would love to see Mike King come back and be Mike King. To me, he was a humongous reason they got off to such a hot start because, if you're in the middle part of the game and it's 1-1, he really can give you 2 or 3 innings of shut down ground ball after ground ball after ground ball pitching, which allows you to rest your pen and have an advantage late in the game.
You make a good point because when he went down, after that, Clay Holmes wasn't the same. He was like the perfect security blanket to Clay Holmes, right? Yeah. And that, last 2 guys at the end of the bullpen, when they're healthy and rocking and rolling, I think the bullpen will be a heck of a lot better. If Michael King is healthy and can throw multiple innings. We need that.
Jason Surge, one more time, a round of applause for Mr. Jason. So I appreciate you coming on. You're going to have to come back often this year. Got to do our little goodbye dance. That's how we let people know we're wrapping it up.
You gotta go.
I love it, man. Fantastic.
I thank you all, and we'll see you when we see you.
Hello there. If you're enjoying NYY Recaps, please consider supporting the channel in one of the following ways.
Join us.
Level 1, like and subscribe to the channel. It helps it grow so that other Yankee fans can find it. You can also subscribe on all of your favorite podcast platforms. We're part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. Level 2, consider purchasing something from the official merchandise store. There's a link in the description. But if you're listening, you can just go to NYYRecaps.shop from your browser or search for NYY Recaps on Shopify. We've got tons of designs, hats, t-shirts, coasters, and posters, but sorry, absolutely no toasters. And level 3, you can join as a member, and every night your name will be up in lights on the screen as a special thank you. You're how we keep this channel going. Thanks so much, and tune in again soon for more of the highest production value Yankees content anywhere in the known universe.
It is your destiny.